Hey guys, well, it's time for another pickup video. It's been almost 2 weeks since I did my last one, and today's pickup video I'm never going to be able to beat. I cannot believe this pickup video. It's unbelievable. This is a multi-part pickup video. It's just, it's unbelievable. I can't wait to show you. My mom and her husband own a pawn shop, and they're recently going to sell it. And like all pawn shops, they have stuff in the back that they've been there for years. They forgot about it, or one reason or another they've never put it out. Anyway, we were there just earlier this week helping with something, and way in the back of the shop there's this dusty covered box. Ironically, my wife, of all people, doesn't know all video game systems or anything, she points it out to me saying, "Hey honey, I think that's Genesis." So I go back there and look at it and dust it off, and I asked about it, and my mom says it doesn't work. And ironically enough, it was a Genesis 2. Ironic, because my last pickup video I picked up an old Genesis, and I plugged everything in, and this thing works perfectly fine. The only reason why I could think they didn't think it worked, because it didn't have a controller, which I had the old one, so it worked just fine. And this in itself would have been cool enough, right? Well, around Easter, we had moved an old fridge they had for years behind this old shelf in the shop. And lo and behold, in the back of that shop was a Super Nintendo 2. Anyway, it didn't have its cable, and it didn't have the power cord. And she gave me this for almost next to nothing. It's just getting rid of junk. They don't have to get rid of it later. They consider it junk, at least. So, as you all know, you could plug a Nintendo 64 AV cable in the back of this, and it works just fine. But anyway, this was really cool. I'm really excited, but that wasn't all of it. So she had another bag in there of stuff, and I had asked about it just out of curiosity, and she said, "Just take it. Just it's back there. Just take it." Well, sure enough, it was a Nintendo 64. Now, what's sad irony about this was last week my wife had gone to a garage sale, and for $30 she picked up a Nintendo 64. So now I own two Nintendo 64s. And the last system is probably the most important system I picked up. It was buried. I had found it. I had asked about it. Just like the Super Nintendo, it didn't have the RFI thing in the back, and it did not have a power cable. But this one has significance to me, because underneath that basket was this NES. And this heart looked familiar to me. I couldn't think of it, And it had been years, by the way, since I seen my original NES. I don't know, 15 years. This is the original NES I used to own. It has the power button keys blinking on and off. It doesn't work. I'll have to figure out what's wrong with it. But anyway, I remember, after a while looking at this thing, I realized I drew this thing on here years ago, and this thing has the same problems that I used to have mine. And I looked at this, and for some reason I still have the number. This is my old NES. It's unbelievable that it would be sitting there that many years later. I found it. I gave this to my sister, and my nephew was 17 years old. My sister and my 17-year-old nephew, and apparently he didn't play anymore, and apparently she must have pawned it. But anyway, it doesn't matter. I got it back. She just basically gave me this. It's unbelievable. All this stuff. I was just thinking I'd get my Genesis, and I would just be happy getting games for that. Anyway, since I was there, I picked up a lot of stuff while I was there. Also, a lot of games. First off, we'll start with the Genesis, since that's probably the smallest pile. For the Genesis, I picked up Truxton, a shooter I've never actually played. Next thing I picked up was David Robertson's Supreme Court, which I just picked, for the collection more than anything else. I probably won't play it very much. So those are the Genesis games I picked up at her pawn shop. And all the stuff I'm showing you in this video is just from her pawn shop that I picked up. Now, the next thing I picked up, and these are games from my Super Nintendo, was Paperboy 2, which actually my wife picked up. I forgot how cheap this game can be sometimes, but it also be very fun. And next thing, ironically, my wife picked this one up too. We only paid $1 for these games. Super Scope 6 for the Super NES. I don't have one, but I'll eventually get a hold of one. We'll eventually play this someday. So for my Nintendo 64, I picked up a couple games, and that was a GT Championship Edition. Next one I picked up, I actually have two doubles on. GoldenEye, this is my double copy. And this GoldenEye, I did not know in that bag that there was a copy of this, or else I wouldn't have ever picked this one up. But anyway, so I got this copy of GoldenEye. And next up, I also picked out Wipeout 64. All these games on Nintendo 64 I haven't played. Ironically, my Nintendo 64, I had it. I didn't really get or play many games on it for some reason. I'm not sure exactly why, but I never did. So, since I got a couple Game Boy games while I was there, and I got Yar's Revenge, which who doesn't love Yar's? For the Game Boy Color, I picked up Dragon Ball Z, and then I picked up good old Metal Gear Solid. Now next up are all the NES games I picked up, and since I finally have a system, though I can't play them yet, I will be getting to these. The first game I picked up, Cabal. Next game that happened to be in the NES, the game I love, and I'm so glad I got it, Castlevania. I'll be playing this game a lot. I love this game. Next up, Commando, which I played in the arcades. Disney's Darkwing Duck. Never played that game. Disney's Adventure in the Magic Kingdom. Disney's The Little Mermaid, which I've never played. Dr. Chaos, which I have played, but I don't remember what this game is about. Dusty Diamond's All-Star Softball. And a game I played a long time ago, The Goonies 2. Millipede? Who doesn't love Millipede? Legends of the Diamond. The Mafia Conspiracy. And good old Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. I played this game a lot. I love this game. I'll still be playing it a lot. Rad Racer 2, which wasn't as good as the original, but it's decent. RoboCop. Skate or Die, a game I played a lot during my NES days. Solomon's Key. Here's a game I truly loved. Star Tropics. This is probably the last game I ever got on my NES. I loved this game. I'll be playing it again to beat it. And good old Super Mario Brothers 3. One of my favorite games. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And Track and Field, the game, of course, my best friend used to cheat by using, of course, good old Turbo back then on the Advantage. And Track and Field 2. Now I also picked up PlayStation 1 game, that is Metal Gear Solid, but for some reason it's in a siphon filter case, so I'm not exactly sure why. But and for PlayStation 2, I picked up Star Wars Starfighter and Crash Nitro Kart, which I've never played either one. And next, for the Xbox 360, I picked up Over G Fighters, and for the wife and the little one, Ratatouille. All these games, PlayStation 2 and Xbox 360, are complete. Now, also with my I picked up another GameCube controller since the last one didn't work so well. And with that NES, I also picked up the good old Nintendo Zapper. Nintendo 64 came with the standard controller, and it also came with a second one, which was a purple controller. And so, as you can see, just an unbelievable haul I got in my mom's pawn shop. And in part 2, I will be going over all the garage sales and pawn shop stuff I've had. I've got a bunch of that, probably just as much as I got here to go over. So, see you guys soon for part 2.